Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's show, I'm very excited to bring to you all, as we welcome back the incredible mind of Jack LaFountain, one of my favourite authors in the channel's history. Of course, as ever though, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. Well, it really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid crew. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's story. Entitled Hartford House. Let's get straight into that.
I should probably keep this one off.
Tonight, it will be tonight. They were inside the house now, gnawing at its bones. The scurrying of their tiny feet gave them away. They thought he could not hear, but he had not sat idle these many days. Oh no, he used the solitude to refine his senses. He could hear them, feel their eyes on him, watching, waiting for him to sleep. He would not give in to their plan. Vigilance, that was his weapon. Jonathan honed it to a deadly edge. Let them come, he was not afraid. Jonathan did not fear the face of death. He could not remember how long it had stalked him through these halls. Suddenly long enough for him to grow contemptuous of gaunt horror that haunted his waking hours. No, it was the lurking, slinking evil that devoured those who slept, that he dreaded, that cowardly, insidious shadow of fear to meet a man face to face. "Come and get me," he whispered. "I'm ready for you." Jonathan pulled back the heavy drapes of his bedchamber and blinked against the cold grey light that seeped into the room. Behind the leading clouds the sun was inching towards the western horizon. In an hour it would be dark. Wakefulness used the dark as cover to escape him, but he maintained a firm grip on it these past 3 nights. He would not let it go now. He shivered despite the fire burning in the hearth. The cold was an ally, and he brushed away the thought of wrapping a cloak around his shoulders. Comfort and ease, well, he would have none of it. Not now. Not on the eve of his victory. Well had Solomon instructed him. "I looked upon it and received instruction," he quoted. "Yet a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that travelleth." He turned his face and his thoughts for such worries to the gardens below. How long had it been since he had walked there, when the magnolias were white with blooms? How long since he felt the breeze on his face? He no longer remembered. Time was lost to him. He knew morning and evening, but had ceased to care which morning and evening it might be. Yet there had been mornings and evenings when he walked among those trees, breathed in the sweet fragrance of the blossoms. He remembered the soft earth beneath his feet and Catherine on his arm. Dear, precious Catherine, how he longed for the peace of her embrace. If he could hold her now, his mind would be at ease. Beneath his hollowed eyes, the corners of his lips curled with the memory of her. Catherine loved the gardens surrounding Hartford House. They were her special handiwork. She would sometimes charge into his study in the early evening and drag him away from his papers and books, his feeble protest overcome by raven hair that floated on the breeze, trailing out behind her as they walked arm in arm. Her hand was so soft and delicate on his arm, and they would stand together in the shelter of the trees. There she would look into his eyes and smile, and her smile would lift him far above his workday world into heavens. And Jonathan's reverie was broken by a scuff on the floor behind him. His smile flickered and died, replaced by a tight, thin line. He rolled a letter opener between his thumb and forefinger, working to a grip upon the point. "Rotten little bastard," he screamed. In a single fluid motion, he pivoted and threw the letter opener. The rat was taken behind the front legs and pinned to the floor, its feet flailing in the air as its life was pumped onto the wood in ebbing spurts. The squirrels faded along with the beady black eyes. and Jonathan's smile returned. Yes, he was ready. Let them come. Well, it was a time not so long ago when they could have taken him by surprise. Well, he was a scoffer. Any enlightened man would be. It was the 19th century, for God's sake. And Jonathan Hartford was one of the brightest, most enlightened men of the day. Everyone said so. A lawyer at 19, and at 22 had grown rich as a land broker and was betrothed to the daughter of a wealthy plantation owner. The Hartfords were rising stars in the Tennessee society. General Jackson had made it a point to stay with them during his campaign for president. And a crudely worded note from a marginally literate tavern keeper brought it all to an end. And Jonathan's eyes were opened. He became a believer. The final utterance of a filthy blackmailer could not be denied, even if it was issued while you happened to be strangling the man. The proof surrounded him as the evidence of his folly grew within him. He became physically ill, nothing serious at first, but steadily growing. Sores bloomed on offended members. Rashes blossomed on his hands and spread over his body. Twice fevers almost claimed him. Catherine was his constant caregiver, mopping his brow and whispering sweet words of comfort while he thrashed and swore. And finally, the pain died away. The curse uttered by the dying innkeeper lived on. For a time, Jonathan's demeanor brightened. His life returned to normal. His partner, Adam Greenville, eagerly welcomed him back. However, Jonathan came to notice whispers followed him everywhere. His passing sparked covert conversation, spoken behind hands that once shook his. And at first, he told himself it was simply the idle chatter of those with nothing better to do than gossip about their betters. Adam assured him it would quickly die out. The talk did not die. It grew. It wrapped around him, invaded his senses, forever leering, accusing, and dragging him down. Hellish eyes followed him. Malicious murmurs ate at his soul. A nervous melancholy settled over him. Whiskey dulled the headaches, but it could not hide the voices that haunted him, or blind the eyes that watched him. The cursed disease that griped him would never die. A change stole over his dearest friends. Adam was still sidelong glances when he thought Jonathan was unaware. Then he avoided looking into Jonathan's eyes at all, or found excuses to be away when Jonathan was in the office. The reason for Adam's behavior finally became clear to Jonathan. Adam, his dear friend, was behind the evil that befell him. Aware of Judas, Jonathan said nothing to give himself away. He was shrewder than that. He waited for the black-hearted traitor to tip his hand. It did not take long. "John," Adam began, "we've always been honest with each other. We've been partners for 10 years and friends even longer. You're more of a brother than a friend. It is as your friend and as your brother that I beg you now to see it, Doctor. You are not well." "You are wrong, Adam," Jonathan replied. I have never been better. Yes, I was sick, but it has fallen to my good. Never have I seen more clearly." "That is a whole lot of trouble, my friend. You cannot see how truly ill you are." "I hear a cure behind your words," Jonathan said. "Very well. Sell me your half at the firm. Take your ease and get well. I promise you, and Catherine will lack for nothing." "You have proven my case," Jonathan said. "Did I not see the subtle serpent? Sell me the business, you say? Anything to rid you of Jonathan Hartford. Is that not the truth of it?" "John, no," Adam pleaded. "You have it wrong. If you do not believe me, speak to Catherine about this. You will see it for the best." "So you would steal my wife too?" Jonathan shot from his seat, turning it over. Kicking the chair from his way, he stomped through the door, slamming it behind him. Jonathan left his office, but he didn't go home. He crossed the street to Drury's Tavern and shouted for an ale and tucked himself into a corner. Black clouds gathered across his brow. Lightning danced in his eyes. Thoughts like thunder rolled through his racing mind. His pounding of his heart reverberated in his head. He let rage run free. It was the sound of horses that finally drew him back from the brink of madness. Adam's coach drew up in the street outside. Somehow the day had slipped away. Adam was closing up the business for the day. Pretentious bastard, Jonathan grumbled. We'll see about this. Jonathan flipped a coin onto the bar in his rush to confront his partner. He stalked into the street a moment too late. Adam was inside the coach that pulled away down the street. Adam's driver chanced to look back at Jonathan. In that instant, Jonathan saw the driver for what he really was. Not a white-haired Negro, but a dark reptilian thing with rows of sharp teeth that gave him a wide, toothy grin. We've got you now, John, that smile said. The loathsome thing actually winked at him as it drove away. Jonathan's strength drained from him. He fell to his knees as waves of nausea washed over him. And as he retched up upon the cobblestones, Jonathan Hartford became a believer. Witches, curses, demons, they were all real. His eyes were opened. He could see clearly. He could see them all. He stumbled back to the Hartford house minutes before dark settled in for the night, climbed the stairs to his chambers, and locked the door behind him. The rats were the first to find him there. Little pawns of the devil. They scampered in the walls and gnawed holes from which they would spy on him. He could hear their voices late at night. Voice of the barmaid, her tempting coos promising pleasure and delivering a lingering death. The voice of her master, the innkeeper, threatening to publish the secret. Jonathan's head snapped up. As he stood there, sleep had almost pulled him down. Yes, the time was near. He retrieved the letter opener, wiped the rat's blood on his trousers, and lumbered across the room to sit behind his desk. He didn't need to look outside to know darkness surrounded him. The restless spirit of the night filled the air with the presence he could feel. They were awakening now. He had killed their spy, but there were more and worse. Beyond his door, they were moving. This was no tiptoe past his room or hushed whisper in the halls. Tonight, they would not flee at his shouts or the sound of his door opening. Tonight, they wanted him to leave his sanctuary so that they might take him. A gentle rap sounded on his door. The time had come. Jonathan reached into the top drawer of his desk and his hand closed on the pistol. John, dear, a voice called to him. The voice was sweet and soothing to his ears, so like Catherine's. But he wasn't fooled. It was the witch speaking with the devil's voice. He knew it as well. He had heard her cautioning the rats, warning them to be quiet and not to wake him. Well, there was no caution now. Tonight she came knocking. Clutching the pistol, he waited, and slowly the knob began to turn. He watched the door swing open. Warmth spread across his thighs, turning chill as it ran down his legs. His knuckles, gripping the pistol, blanched. His imagination was king, but it had not prepared him for what he saw. Oh, it was hideous. The hunched, black crone was ancient, beyond comprehension. Deep furrows ploughed by a mad farmer cut the worn leather skin stretched over old bones. Moist gobs of green oozed from the corners of her eyes and dribbled down her cheeks. The thing raised an arthritic, gnarled finger and hooked the yellow now in his direction. "You've wet yourself again?" she croaked. Jonathan refused to look down and add to her satisfaction at his humiliation. It was not the warm wetness of his legs that answered. It was the cold in his heart. The hand holding a pistol materialized from behind his back. Powder flashed. The pistol bucked, and acrid blue smoke filled Jonathan's vision. The roar inside the room was deafening. "What say you now, witch?" Jonathan screamed. The witch was speechless. The shot carried away her taunting tongue, along with her lower jaw, and her bloody body crumpled to the floor. "How's that for conjuring up some magic?" he asked the lifeless body. "Now for your filthy familiars." A panic-stricken rat darted from under the bed. Jonathan planted a fierce kick on the rat's body, sending it skyward. The rat bounced off the top of his dresser and onto the floor. Dazed, the rat hesitated, and at that moment's delay spelled its doom. Jonathan brought his heel down on the creature's skull with a satisfying crunch. Jonathan roared with laughter as it twitched beneath his foot. Jonathan stopped at his desk to reload the pistol. He tucked the weapon into his belt opposite the twin and retrieved a third object from atop his wardrobe. He stepped over the rotting pile of flesh in the doorway and started down the hall. "Here I am, you damnable brood," he shouted. "Come get me!" And he was met at the top of the stairs by a tall, pallid figure dressed in black. Its bald head swiveled to and fro, looking for until it settled on Jonathan. "Here, devil!" Jonathan called it closer. The lanky form turned towards him, red eyes blazing from the dark hollow sockets. It charged at him, heedless of the pistol in his right hand. Jonathan's left hand flew from his side to before his face. In it held the object gathered from atop of the wardrobe. The creature faltered at the sight of the large, jewel crucifix. Surprise flashed in its eyes. "Too late," Jonathan said, and hurled the crucifix. The tip of the cross Jonathan spent months sharpening buried itself in the creature's chest. The thing whirled, clawing itself like an animal, desperately trying to pull the crucifix from its chest. Blood sprayed from the impaled heart, covering the walls and floor, where the monster collapsed. "Who shall be next?" Jonathan shouted. "Come, witch! Come, demon! Jonathan Hartford summons you!" And tracking the sound of slamming doors and shrill, banshee wails, Jonathan tracked his tormentors and one by one laid them low until he stood in the great hall, covered in blood and sweat and panting from his labours. And he was free. A sudden cock of his head said the battle was not yet over. There remained one more terror, but this one was not stalking him. It was cowering in fear. The sound of terrified whimpers led Jonathan to a passage just under the stairs. He threw open the door to reveal a small imp huddled in a corner. Snort and drool ran from its face and covered its claws. It looked up at Jonathan and loosed a high-pitched wail. Jonathan drove the rat-killing letter opener into its milky eye. The imp twitched for several moments, blood and gore pouring from its face, and then it was still. Hartford House lay still as its victorious master climbed the stairs. He had won at last. He could reclaim his family, his health, and his business. But first, he must rest. He was so tired. Now he managed to stagger back to his room and dropped onto the bed. And when he awoke, bright sunlight was streaming in through the open window. The breeze carried a hint of magnolia. Jonathan exhaled the deep breath he was holding and sat up. Far below, he heard the front door open. Footsteps echoed on the hardwood floor. He listened for a moment without moving. There were two of them. He followed the sound as they walked across the entryway to the parlour. One must be very ill. He heard running followed by violent retching. "Jonathan!" Adam's voice called out. "Jonathan, where are you?" Jonathan, still wearing his blood-soaked clothes, walked to the top of the stairs and looked down on his one-time friend. "My God, Jonathan!" Adam said. "What have you done?" The mock horror in his voice was no better disguised than the creature itself. It looked like Adam Greenville, but Jonathan knew better. The Adam thing started up to meet him, its eyes darting nervously around the house. Jonathan launched himself at the foul creature and then tumbled down in a tangle of flailing limbs. Jonathan recovered first and pinned the creature to the floor. His hands closed on his throat. God had granted Jonathan supernatural strength. The creature was powerless against him. A shrill wheeze escaped the creature's throat, while his visage swam in and out of focus. First Jonathan saw Adam, then a demon, Adam, Demon, Adam, demon. Whatever spawn of hell it might be, Jonathan could feel its life draining through his fingers. A distinctive click sounded in Jonathan's ear. He had forgotten the second creature. His head jerked towards the sound, but he kept a hold of the Adam thing. A single black eye stared back at him. A flash of fire filled Jonathan's vision. Thunder roared, and darkness followed. Jonathan Hartford fell dead, a smoking crater in his right temple. The Natchapika Uni carried the headline. Prominent attorney slays entire family. Adam Greenville dropped the paper on his desk with a sigh. It's a damn shame. A damn shame, I tell you, Greenville said. Jonathan Hartford, he was a good man. He that soweth the flesh shall out the flesh reap corruption, his companion quoted. Moment's indiscretion years ago, Adam said with a wave of dismissal. It should never have come to this. A moment, a day, or 1,000 years. What is that to he that is beyond time? Besides, you did everything you could. Did I? I watched the disease eat away the man's sanity. Adam brushed a tear from his cheek. I did nothing, and he killed his entire family and staff. Where is God's mercy? The man of his own accord stepped into that place, knowing full well the sort it was. He certainly had all of his faculties when he chose to play the fool with that girl. Seems to me he sold his soul years ago. I suppose you're right, Adam said. In such a case, God help us all. Yeah, God help us, indeed. Wow. Certainly another one. Wow. What a twisted, fantastic, paranormal spine tingler there from the incredible mind of our brother from another mother, a Mr. Jack LaFountain. Big thank you, Jack, for once again remembering the show and blessing us with your incredible work. I really hope you enjoyed this rendition, and I hope your books are doing well and life's treating you even better. And I certainly look forward to the next adventure. Well, guys and girls, if you don't know, Jack has a collection of fantastic stories, some of the classics from this channel, available for purchase over on his Amazon website, of which I'll leave the link to in the description box below. Show some love and support, and why not treat yourself to a fantastic addition to your collection. Of course, why not let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help both the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid Crew. Now, if you think you can pen the next big hit or strike something of that caliber, then why not get in touch with us at the contact email, which is as on screen. contactthedeadone@gmail.com. I really look forward to hearing from you. I hope everybody's well and happy, making the most of the summer sunshine whilst we still have it, and are getting stuck in with your studies or work or whatever it is that you do. But above all, guys, remember, be safe, not sorry.